communist.
Cecil, what's the feeling?
I want to add at this point, Joe, that there is, I find among officers, the U.S. Army officers in the Far East, junior officers to be sure, a growing feeling that all this diplomacy is getting us nowhere except a series of setbacks. There's a growing idea that perhaps the real answer to dealing diplomatically is by military means, that the time has come for the United States to make war on the communists before the communists have the capacity to destroy us. In other words, shoot now before we get weaker.
But Cecil, surely you agree that these young Turks, these young colonels, aren't going to make any policy for us in the Far East under President Kennedy any more than they would have if Mr. Nixon would have been elected. I think really what the American people and President-elect Kennedy are going to have to decide, and this is up to the administration, is really whether they think a war, a general war, is worthwhile over Laos. I think they have to make a judgment whether they really want to go in and create a client state here if neutralism doesn't work. Cecil?
Well, I don't share the view that we should make war. I'm reporting that as the view of many officers as they grow despairing over the diplomatic maneuvering of the United States. Now, perhaps Kennedy can put on a better visage and image of our diplomatic ability. But at the present stage, they are weary of losing here, there, and elsewhere.
Well, Cecil, what are the issues involved in the Laos struggle? How did it all arise?
I'd like to answer some of that if I could. Wells, confusion mostly. A couple of months ago, we had three policies working there. We had the State Department recognizing the neutralist government of Premier Savannah-Puma. At the same time, we had the Central Intelligence Agents going around in Laos and recruiting rebels, rightist rebels, to fight against this government that we recognized. And then we had the Pentagon with their officers and troops over there training both the rebel army and the government army with communist infiltrators in both the armies.
Well, Cecil, this point interested me that you raised about questioning whether we have the will to fight actually on the ground in Asia. I suppose it's been forgotten that we did do precisely this in Korea. Perhaps we no longer have that will. Perhaps the lesson has been lost on Asia. This country has no troops in the Congo, of course, but we do have very vital interest, and we are deeply involved there, and we will take up the Congo in just a moment. But now, here is Whitfield Connor to reveal one major activity of the Gulf Oil Corporation.
These are the sights and sounds of life at a new and lonely frontier. You're in 100 feet of water, 35 miles off the Louisiana coast, pushing the never-ending search for oil energy into invisible depths thousands of feet below the bottom of the sea. That first exploration well can easily run up to a couple of $1 million, with the chances 1 to 9 of finding any oil. But out here may lie the greatest find of United States oil left to be discovered for our growing needs. It costs 3 times as much to hunt oil offshore. The stakes are high, but new developments like a drilling platform with not 1 but 20 wells on it are making it possible to continue this costly search. These pioneering efforts offshore are one more way the Gulf Oil Corporation keeps you supplied with plentiful, low-cost oil energy for whatever work there is to be done.
If Asia and Latin America present thorny problems for the United States in the 1960s, and we have seen that they do, perhaps nothing will tax the ability and the imagination of the Kennedy administration so much as the surging forces finally being released in Africa. Irving Levine, what does Kennedy face in Africa, and what can he do about it?
Well, certainly one of the hottest areas in 1961 for President Kennedy will be Africa, and in particular the Congo. It was only 6 months ago this very day that an independent Congo was prematurely born. Since then, 5 sections of the Congo have declared themselves independent. There's no central authority. The Congo's economy also is fragmented. There's fighting among tribes and between rival factions of the irresponsible army. There's a very grave danger of civil war if the followers in Stanleyville of imprisoned former Premier Patrice Lumumba can obtain support from Moscow and Cairo. Whatever order there still is in the Congo,